What's up guys, Seeger here from ProNDC. Welcome to another ESO build video. So in today's video I want to show you the Magicka Sorcerer PVE Pet Build for the Clockwork City DLC. First of all, let me apologize that it took me that long to actually upload the build. I tested a lot of stuff on the Magicka and I talked to a lot of Magicka Sorcerers out there and asked them like what setups do they run and what results they get. And also, I think like Snaxu spent like 4 days trying out different rotations and setups and builds, and he always got the same results. And it was the same for me, which was completely confusing. Just to name a few examples of what I tested, like I varied the setups, like the gear setups. So I combined Necropotence with Julianos. I combined Necropotence with Infallible Weather. I combined Necropotence with Mother Sauron 6-1 setup. I combined, of course, like usual, Necropotence with Alambris, Moondancer, Infallible Weather. Yeah, those were pretty much the gear setups that I tested. Then I tried out usual like light attack force pulse rotations. Then I tried out rotations with the destructive clench here. Then I tried out rotations with Scalding Rune from the Mage's Guild. I tried out rotations without the execute. I tried rotations with 2 pets. I tried out Alambris and then swapped it out for more of the Infernal, and the results were always the same. I even tried out switching around the Munderstones. Like, of course, like if you want to get the most damage on the target skeleton, you just go with the lower Munderstone. But I tried out the Apprentice, the Mage, and the Thief, and the results were always the same. Like I tested every rotation, every setup, with each different Munderstone, and they were always the same. They were like the factors that actually influenced your DPS the most was the uptime of your concussion, like minor vulnerability, the 8% more damage taken for the enemy, and the off balance, of course, like 10% more damage from the exploiter passive. And that was super weird. So yeah, I don't know, really frustrating. But I decided to show you the what I think most fun setup on the Magicka Sorcerer and like yeah, for dungeons and trials. And you do at least a few light attacks. You don't just stand there and do heavy attacks all the time. So yeah, I think we should like really get into it now. So this, what I show you right here, like that's also like the reason why I run Crushing Shock, the interrupt morph. It's because this is my Asylum Santorium setup. That's why I have the Lava Mana Stone. We do not have a lot of debuff sets, and I need the penetration, otherwise I lose a lot of damage. So I have the Lava Mana Stone here. If you do not need that much penetration, like I always say, sit down with the group, ask the people, what do you actually run? Do we run Alkosh? Do we have Infused Crusher enchantments? Do we have Infused Crusher with Torx Pact enchantments? And just add up the numbers, and then keep in mind you always have penetration from your light armor from concentration, which is 4,884, and then 100 base penetration. And then of course from skills like Elemental Drain right here, which we actually don't need, I'm sorry, from Elemental Drain, or from the Taunt of the Tank, 5,280 penetration. Oh no, resistance debuff, sorry. So yeah, if you don't need it, switch it out for either the Apprentice or the Thief Munderstone. It's up to you. If you only have 1 pet, I'd rather go with the Apprentice. If you run with 2 pets, which I won't show you the rotation of, just go with the Apprentice. It's probably the safest bet. So high elf Magicka Sorcerer, all points to Magicka. We have a shit ton of Magicka here, 51.5k, even though we're not running in the light, 18.4k health. As you can see, these are my stats with the lover, max health, max magic food. Actually, we should refresh it. I currently use melon baked parmesan pork, and then we use essence of spell power. So we get the major prophecy, 10% more crit chance, and we get major sorcery and we restore Magicka. Pretty good. So for gear, This is all really easy to get. You can buy necropotence at the guild vendor. You can get Alhambras from what's called Crypt of Hearts 1 from the final boss, and then the shoulders from the Undaunted keys. And the only weapon that's really hard to get is the Asylum Perfected Lightning Staff. We use a Lightning Staff. I do not use an Inferno Staff because most damage comes from AoE abilities, so we want double lightning. You could run lightning on the front but fire on the back if you want to. Yeah, but in a lot of cases you want the Blockade of Storms to set enemies off balance. So this one you can only get from the Silent Santorium in hard mode if you want to farm the weapon. You can also get this from the weekly rewards if a Silent Santorium is the weekly trial. Like if we look at the leaderboards, we have the weekly trial and currently it's halted fabrication. So yeah, not Santorium. You want this one to be the weekly trial. Otherwise you cannot get it. There was a bug, I think, in the first week, so NA players on PC got the staff even from other trials. It's not working anymore. You need to wait for Silent Santorium. And if that is the weekly trial, I recommend to get as many characters into that weekly list as possible. As many as possible. Then you will there is a relatively high chance that you will get one of the Asylum's perfected staves. Then you can just retrade them, like I did, to Infused. I run it with a Flame Damage enchantment. People ask, like, why are you not running Shock enchantments? Well, I don't need a Shock enchantment. Every time I do 2 Force Shocks, like either Crushing Shock or Force Pulse, I get Concussion. Like, I have secured Concussion. I have a lot of lightning damage. I have lightning damage on this ability from the familiar, on this ability, on my ultimate, and on my Force Shock from one of the, like, there's 3 parts damage, Flame, Frost, and Shock, and the Force, like the Shock part also has the chance to proc it. And then also from my Alhambras. So yeah, Flame Damage enchantment will give you a little bit more damage, and will also proc your Flame Alhambras a little bit more often. And yeah, that's why we run Flame. And also if your tanks run Engulfing Flames, or if you have a Mag Decay, the Flame Damage enchantment will be more damage than the Shock enchantment, and you will get more burning uptime, a little bit more, resulting also in a little bit more DPS. So on the back power we run the Maelstrom's Lightning Staff in Infused with the Spell Damage enchantment. I've heard that a lot of people on console are now basically running poisons. And yeah, while that might give you more damage on the target skeleton, I don't really recommend to run it in trials. Because you're ranged, and because of that, there's a really big chance that the poison, like, I think the poison can get applied by your blockade, which means if there's an enemy here and the main boss is standing here, because you're a ranged character, like the main boss, let's imagine the tree is the main boss and the stone here is an edge. For example, at the first boss in VMAL, there's cats. The tanks pull the cats to the main boss, and you put down the blockade here. It could be that the blockade will apply the poison on the ad, not the boss. That's kind of an issue. Same goes for the Maelstrom Staff set bonus. I'm not sure if they fixed it, but basically this only applies to one target, if I remember correctly. Like I said, I'm not sure if they fixed it. So the target that gets hit first by your Blockade of Storms will get affected by the extra damage from your light and heavy attacks from the Maelstrom Staff, which is kind of an issue. So I do not really recommend to run poisons. It's like they will give you probably give you the best damage on a skeleton here, but not in a trial. And they also proc less in a trial, which is a little bit confusing for me. Like I've seen it on my 7-up builds because I run the poison there. They're really great. But I really do not see the point, because while it has the chance to give you a little bit more single target DPS, your AoE DPS will suffer quite a bit because you do not have the extra spell damage. Yeah, so back to gear. So we run 5 Necropotence. You can buy this, all divines, gives you a ton of Magicka, and this is what buffs your pet the most. So Necropotence, you can buy it. You can also farm it in, let me check, item browser. Oh, come on. So let's check where you can actually get Necropotence. Oh, it's Rivenspire. So in Rivenspire you can farm Necropotence. Yeah, this is what I recommend here. Then we have Alambris, like I said, Crypt of Hearts 1, and then we combine that with Willpower. We only use Willpower if we have the perfected Lightning Staff. If we do not have it, what I recommend is just go with Moondancer, with this one here, Infused Staff, and then put a Shock Damage Glyph here. If you don't have this staff, put a Shock Damage Glyph there to be a little bit like, yeah, to get more concussion procs, because you don't have the secured ones from the perfected staff. You could also run the Fire Enchantment if you want to. It's up to you. Fire will give you probably a little bit more DPS. So if you run Asylum Perfect Lightning Staff, go with Willpower, all spell damage, gives us Magicka and spell damage. If you do not have it, run Moondancer. The other option would be to run Infallible Ether, but it's up to you. So yeah, that's it for gear. Let's get into skills. Quickly try to cover the skills. So we have Crushing Shock, activates the Asylum Staff. We have Mage's Wrath or Execute. We have Daedric Prey. Daedric Prey boosts our pet's damage by 40%. Then we have Volatile Familiar, the pet that we use. Bound Aegis, toggle ability increases our max Magicka by 8%. Shooting Star increases the Magicka by 2% because of Mage skill passives right here. And it's also really good on trash fights because we use it and then we get back ultimate, which is nice and has a really cool dot. And on the back bar we have Thunderous Rage, the ultimate that we actually use because it has a bigger range than compared to Shooting Star, and it lasts 9 seconds. It's really good. Bound Aegis again, Volatile Familiar again, because these are toggle abilities, so you need them on both bars, otherwise they will turn off. Then we have Empowered Board as our shield. We have Liquid Lightning and Blockade of Storms as our AoE, damage over time effects. So that's pretty much it for skills. Quickly covered champion points. So usually like green points vary a little bit here. I have 34 into Warlord, 37 into Arcanist, 75 into Tenacity, 14 into Tumbling, and 44 into Shadowboard. You can put a little bit more points into Arcanist if you want to, but it's up to you. Red Tree, currently I have 61 into Ironclad, 12 into Spell Shield, 49 Hardy, 49 Elder Defender, 14 Thick Skin. This always stays the same, and 19 to Quick Recovery. In the Blue Tree, currently I have 28 into Spell Erosion. If you run the Lover, you might not need that many points, but in a Sanctorium I have to focus enemies that usually are not always debuffed, so some extra penetration is not too bad. In other trials, usually like there's only one boss and you can like focus him, you don't need that many points into Erosion. Then you can put more points into Elemental Expert, or you put a few more points into Erosion and just go with your Pentas Monostone. That's up to you. If you need more points here, you should take out points from Master Arms. We have 44 here, and 37 into Elemental Expert, 40 Elfborn, and I currently have 81 into Thaumaturge. You could also take 6 points out because we only need the 75 to get Exploiter, but then you only have 23% damage from damage over time effects. By having 81, we get the 24% damage. Yeah, the jump point. So we need Exploiter. We need at least 75 points here to get 10% more damage on off-balance enemies. Yeah. So as I always say, sit down with the group, ask what debuff sets you have, what penetration sets you have, and then add up the numbers, and then you need to figure out how many points you need to put here by adding up the numbers. And you want to get as close as possible to 18.2k. So yeah, that's pretty much it for champion points. Let's get into the rotation. Rotation is pretty simple. So what we do is we start with light attack liquid lightning, light attack blockade, then light attack pet, light attack daedric prey. Then we do a heavy attack 1, and then we do 2 force pulses, which is perfect because like 2 force pulses would activate the perfect lightning staff into bar swap. We apply liquid lightning, we apply blockade, this, and then again daedric prey, 2 light attack with 4 pulses, then into bar swap, and again it goes like that the whole time until we get into the execute. We keep our stuff up in the execute. If daedric prey won't explode anymore, do not recast this, go with Mage's Wrath instead. Just reactivate liquid, blockade, and the familiar. And if you do not want to run with the execute, like if you say like I don't need this, you could slot in a light, and then you're sitting at 54k Magicka, and that's a lot. That's really a lot. But I prefer the execute actually. So I run it this way. Yeah. So I will show it to you here on the skeleton. Basically, it's pretty simple. Just slotting a little drain to make sure I'm not running out. So basically, like before the start of the fight, I usually use the pet. The thing with the rotation is, it doesn't matter in which order you do it. The only important thing is make sure these things do not run out as like a lot. Always use 2 force pulses, always use 1 heavy attack, and it doesn't matter if you use like daedric prey, if you use the pet as the last skill on the bar, reapply this, cast prey, use 2 force pulses, then heavy attack into the pet. It doesn't matter. Like because what I do, I cast the pet before the fight. Liquid, blockade, prey, force pulse, and then the heavy attack into a pet. But the amount of attacks that I do on the front bar is the same, as you can see. Okay, I had to reapply drain, so I only did 1 force pulse, but then I do a heavy attack into a pet. It's the same all the time. You will have pretty good sustain that way, and yeah. Can you quit the pet? Oh, I'm sorry, wrong button. So that's pretty much the rotation. I will include a DPS test now at this end of the video, and I hope we will have fun with the build. It works pretty well, to be honest. I prefer to play without pets actually, because especially in the new trial, this buddy here dies a lot, and pet rotations are really, really expensive. Like, let me actually check. Here. Yeah, you can see like the drain per second is 1.8k almost. I thought it was more actually, but well, whatever. Yeah, so we drain a lot of Magicka per second. Anyway, guys, that's it. Have fun with the DPS test, and I also hope you tune in next time. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, and if you do not want to miss any more ESO content, make sure to subscribe. It'd be really nice. So see you next time. Until then, bye bye.